Listen, it's such a great honor to have you back on the show. A living legend, amazing saxophonist, best-selling instrumentalist of all time, 75 million records sold, but at the core of it, a great human being and a very dear friend. So, Kenny G, welcome back to the show. It's great to see you.
Of course, it's always great to see you, Dave. We have what 2 or 3 decades of history between us now.
I know. And hopefully more decades to come.
Let's hope so. Yes, let's hope nothing cuts that short.
That's right. Well, you certainly seem to not be wasting any time. There's no grass growing under your feet. You've had a whirlwind of activity over the last few months. So is this a little bit of a downtime now after a big tour and the release of the record and everything? You're home for a bit?
I'm home for a little bit, but it's not much of a downtime. But I'm orchestrating it that way because I want to be busy promoting my record. I don't do them that often, as you know. It's years and years between releases for me. So now that it's out, I'm in work mode to just get the word out there. And the challenge I find is connecting with my audience or even new audience and to let them know I've got this record out there. It's great. I'd love for you to check it out. Of course, I'd love for everyone to buy it or download it as they do now. But that's a real challenge is
Yeah.
to find that connection. How do I connect with people? And it's not easy. So I'm out there working to try to do that.
Well, this was going to be a question of mine since you brought it up. I'll ask it now. Since you started, like in the early 80s, I can't remember if it was 82 or something when your first record came out, but I know it was in the earlier 80s to now. So this is, 40 years later. Um, it's like a complete 180 from the way that you and I started. My first record came out in 1990. It was many years later, but still that record business or that entertainment business was completely unrecognizable to the way it is now. And you talk to young artists, they don't have any connection to the way it was to the way it is now. So how have you adjusted? You seem to be adjusting beautifully to this new paradigm, but I can imagine, because I know from my own experience, it's dizzying, it's disorienting, it's trying to find solid ground where there is none. So how have you managed to do it?
Good question. I like the way you put that, solid ground. Yeah, for me, I remember the days. Now, in 1990, I was 1982, so not that much ahead. But we would hope that we got radio airplay, and the
Mhm.
radio airplay would then send people to the record stores where they would hopefully see some sort of a billboard or a cardboard cutout of you or me pointing them in the direction of our records. And
Right.
then they might even ask a nice salesperson, hey, what do you have there that's new? And the salesperson, hopefully, if we've talked to them, would say, hey, by the way, there's a new Kenny G record or there's a new Dave Koz record. And then people would do that. And that was how we did it. Now, nobody goes to record stores. You would think, well, they can just order it from their comfort of their own home. Well, that must be better. Well, of course, in some ways it's better, but in a lot of ways it's harder because you can't, I can't reach my audience the way we used to. We used to, just get that radio airplane. We knew everyone was listening. Now there's so much out there. There's so many avenues for people to get entertained. It's tricky. So what have I done? I've got young people working with me, Dave. I'm sure you do as well. I've got younger people. We're still young. We're still young. But I've got younger people that.
Good catch, Kenny.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Well, I said young people, and I looked at you and went, wait, Dave's looking young, so that's why. And so I'm thinking that they're gonna know how to do this. They're going to help. They're going to help. And a lot of their ideas I don't like, and I filter them. Some I will be talked into because some sound dumb to me, you know, because I'm just old school. So they say, well, you should do this. And are you sure? Yes. So I try. And most of the time they're right. And if something just doesn't feel right, I don't do it. But yeah, it's a challenge. Just getting a good team together. I've got, you got to get those young people for publicity. And I'm going to launch a TikTok. I just haven't figured out how to do it. I just don't want it to look stupid.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's the key is all these new tools, these avenues that are available to us that are completely novel for people like you and me. And yet they are tools that are now being discovered by even our audience, which is
Mm.
our audience is late to the game on a lot of the new tech. But still, to be relevant and to continue on in this game, we have to sort of be adventurous in our spirit and try new things. And it's really weird. The way that I've kind of likened it was that for the longest time, we were like locked into the radio station of life. Like it was broadcasting to us and we were broadcasting to it, and it was a lock. And then all of a sudden, like overnight, somebody switched the radio station and now it's just static, and we're trying to find that lock again. And the interesting thing too, Kenny, is that way back when in the 80s, there was something like, somebody told me this, that there was something like 9,000 records released per year, albums. And now that could be a day of record releases
Yeah.
worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the deluge of music that's available to people, and how people get it via streaming or however they process or however they consume their music is really, it's such a different game. But you have, and I think brilliantly, refashioned yourself in the modern era. Because I mean, I can think of three things. I remember you showing up in a Katy Perry video, and then there was the Kanye video, then there was the Weeknd song. I mean, those are amazing collaborations.
Yeah.
And did you have trepidation about it, or were you just gung ho, let's go?
Oh, no trepidation at all. It's all about the music. If the music works, I'm in. When I heard the Weeknd song, when he sent it to me, I mean, I thought, okay, I wrote him, I said, did you write this song for me? It's so right up my alley, you know. I know how to play this. And he already had a sax part on it. And I remember the first text to him was, do you want me to repeat the sax part that you have because you just want like to feature me? And it's good for me, by the way. Or would you allow me to actually play the sax part that should have always been there? I said it like that. He goes, please do your thing. And by the way, so this was let's say on a Wednesday. The next day we were going to get together and we were going to film his Times Person of the Year performance. So this was coming in fast. So I listened to the song, and I came into my studio and I thought, I'm not just going to wing a solo tomorrow. I'm going to work out a solo that's, I think, going to last forever. So I spent a few hours, sent it to him, and he loved it. So the next day when I went to meet him, I was basically performing something I had worked out, which was way better for me. But it was easy. It was easy because the music was there. Same thing with the Kanye song. When I first heard the piece, when he had me come over to play that Valentine's Day for Kim, that's when I met him. And then he took me to his studio, and we just started, bonding. You know how it is, sharing little things here and there. And he was such a nice guy. And so he played something for me. I said, hey, bro, wait, play that again. I said, okay, I need to put my sax right there on that part. He looked at me and goes, let's go. And he took out a microphone. So that's how fast that happened. That was super easy. So no trepidation. And obviously it has to work musically. For me, Dave, it has to be musically. It's not just gimmicky in the sense that you want the publicity and exposure. Of course, that's all great. First things first is, if the music doesn't work, I'm out.
Yeah. Well, you have reached icon status, and that's through hard work and determination, and also releasing amazing music of your own, and also showing up only when it makes sense for you. Because you could pimp yourself out left and right, because you are a brand name. I mean,
it's tough out there for a pimp.
Yeah. But when people think saxophone, this is the world over. When people think saxophone, they think Kenny G, and then they think everybody else right below that. But that's a compliment to you, and also just reality, because
Thank you.
of how long you've been doing it, and you've been doing it at a very high rate, and always musicality at the forefront. Listen, you just completed a big tour. We had our Christmas tour we got back out there as well this year. I'm just curious to know, this is the first time that you've done, and really me too, done touring and traveling the country at a time of it was pretty intense out there. Christmas happily happened right before the big Omicron blow up, so we just squeaked through. But how was it for you? How was touring out there this year?
Yeah, same here. We squeaked through as well. Our December tour ended, and all of a sudden we looked at some of the venues we just played and realized those would have been closed a week later. So, and I know I saw your tour out there. So we were kind of playing some of the same venues, different times, which was always great to see. You're always out there Christmas time. I'm always out there. It's fun to see our fellow colleagues out working. But yeah, it was, I tried to keep as safe as I could, but also we wanted to give people the experience. So I felt like I took the risks that were calculated and intelligent, and nobody in my organization got COVID.
Wow.
And I'm out there, like I'm even signing CDs. But what I did was I told everybody, I'm going to come out and sign CDs after the show, but I'm going to make sure there's lots of ventilation out there. And I might be wearing a mask all the time, or I might not, but just know that we're going to keep it as safe as possible. And everybody was cool. And I had fans literally on the table blowing the air all around so that anybody that got close, whatever was in the air was getting blown away. So it worked out pretty well. And unfortunately, I noticed that a lot of the shows were not sold out where they normally would have been. I'm not sure how you did. Maybe you sold them all out, but we didn't. And I wish we would have, but people just didn't know what to do. They weren't sure whether to come. Maybe some didn't want to come because they had to wear masks. Some didn't come maybe because they knew people weren't going to be wearing masks. So there was a lot of questions. And I'm supposed to start February 10th again for a 10-day run. I'm hoping by then people are going to feel comfortable again, but I'm sure that the ticket sales are not going to be that great.
Well, I think we saw the same thing, by the way, where it wasn't necessarily full when it normally would be full. But the people who did come were so
Mm,
appreciative, and I would say it from the stage. We all said it from the stage. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for
yeah.
being here. And that's just to show you. It showed me again how healing the power. I mean, this is cliche as it comes, but it's real and true, and that is the healing power of music because people need that, and I needed it too. I
Yeah.
needed to feel connected to music again after being sidelined for all this time.
Yeah. It was a couple of years basically where we weren't touring. And, you know, I've been doing it since the 80s. You've been doing it, let's say since the 90s. And I know you very, very well. And you know me very, very well. We've been out there touring all those years. So, you're talking about decades of this is our lifestyle. We love it. We love to go out and perform for people. People appreciate it. And then to have 2 years off, the only silver lining for me, not there was more than one silver lining, but the one thing that made it actually okay was that everybody was in the same boat.
Right.
I didn't mind not being on the road because I knew everyone else was taking the same break. But I did miss it. But I also enjoyed, hey, like I say, I was talking to a friend. Hey, friend, in about 4 weeks, on a Monday, let's have dinner. I could never do that before. I could
Right.
never plan anything. It'd have to be like, well, wait till I get home and it'll be last minute. Never plans. And it was really interesting to actually make plans and have plans and see friends. It was pretty cool. I actually really enjoyed that.
Dude, there are so many silver linings to the pandemic. I got a dog.
Oh,
Okay.
how could you ever get a dog before? You're never home.
Right. I mean, that
Oh,
just shows you and he's downstairs right now with my assistant, but otherwise he would be here. He would be all over you because he's a bigger Kenny G fan than he is a Dave Koz fan. And I'm
oh.
okay with that. All right with it.
One
But
of my songs hopefully just puts him right to sleep.
yes, that's right. Nap
Oh,
time for
before
both
we
of us.
before we go on, I was so looking forward to seeing you today because I know people are hearing us. But by the way, we folks, while we're talking, Dave and I are watching each other over a Zoom call. So we're recording the audio for you, but we're looking at each other, which is great. I wanted to let you know on my documentary, I just got through talking to Pat Prescott at the Wave here in LA. And she told me something that I did not know because I'm not in any way in any control of what the finished product of the film was. She said to me, she goes, yeah, I was talking to Dave and Dave said to me, this is Pat Prescott talking. Yeah, Pat, I ended up on the editing room floor. And I said, what do you mean, Pat? And Pat goes, well, Dave was interviewed for the film. I said, I did not know that until this minute, which was like a week ago. So I wanted to let you know that I had no idea who they talked to and
Uh-huh.
what they had thought of and who ended up not making the film. So just so you knew, it was not coming from me that Dave
Oh,
Koz would not be part of my HBO
of
documentary.
course. It just is proof that I was actually pretty boring.
Not so. She had a story to tell that I think was specific. Like we went to my high school in Seattle and I got one, two, three of my closest high school friends to meet at the auditorium in high school. And we had this whole cool thing about where I had played when I was a high school student, blah, blah, blah. They didn't make it. My
Yeah.
high school student, these are my bros. So when I asked her, I said, why didn't you use my high school friends? She goes, I had to make cuts and I was trying to tell a story and it just didn't work. So don't feel bad.
I don't
Don't feel
feel
bad.
bad because I love the movie, and as I mentioned when we first popped on, you are a movie star now, and it's like taking you to another level in my eyes. But I'm curious to know because first of all, this was on HBO. This is not some sort of like small channel that five people are watching. This is HBO. It's international. You're an international star, so it made perfect sense. But I think that this was not a documentary that was made for jazz fans or Kenny G fans. This was a documentary that was made for anybody to see inside the life of you. And I think this is just me personally. I love the
Yeah.
movie, but this is what I took away from it because I understand it from my own career too, that this was an expose of criticism of art. That's how it affected me. It's
Yeah.
like how and you were the subject because you've been criticized a lot,
Yeah.
and in many good ways and in many bad ways or harsh ways. And I think you've been unfairly criticized in your career, and so have I, by the way. But you much more because of how popular you are. But I think that she did a good job in sort of explaining to people that music and all art is subjective. And I think that she told the story in the end. For me, as a viewer and fan of yours, I think it was uh, a fair perspective on the subject, you, and the situation that we're all dealing with. But I'm curious to know from you, first of all, what was the experience like being the subject of a documentary? And secondly, what did you think of the finished product?
Okay, good, great questions. And I think your analysis of it is right on. That's what the film was about. It wasn't a film of me and my accomplishments and getting to know me as a person. And then it's a fluff piece about how great I am, or how popular or whatever, successful with any of those things. It wasn't about that. It was about the fact, and she likes to say it like this, the director, whose name is Penny Lane, what a great name. She says it like this. She says, this film is about me, Kenny, who's really, really popular, and that makes some people really angry. And she wants to know why and wants to talk about that. So that's what it was about, which was great. And I thought that the critics that were in there I thought they were sincere about how they talked, and it made me laugh because to me, they're missing everything when the certain criticisms that they make about me. I'm thinking, you have not come to one of my live shows. You probably can't make yourself do that. But if you did, you'd probably change your tune, or maybe you wouldn't because maybe you would just be listening through filtered ears or something like that. But they just aren't seeing what I'm doing or who I am, or it's like if I played a song, and let's say I played every note the same as Cannonball Adderley, which I did on one of my tunes on my Brazilian Nights record. It was a tune called Quiet Nights. And I took Cannonball solo, play almost note for note, but I fixed a few things that I didn't particularly like about what his solo was. So you could just say that 99% of what I played was Cannonball Adderley, one of the greatest alto sax players of all time. So if you're a jazz guy listening, you can't possibly go, "Ugh, I didn't like that solo." You can't say that. Now, did anybody give me any credit for that? No, because once they saw my name on it, they go, this is no good. So I have that, but that's just a very small price to pay. Anyway, the critics, they just, once they see my name, they have a filter, and that showed during the film, because at the end of the film, one of the critics, who was made to listen to my music after about a minute or so, went, "Wait a minute, this is what's not to like about this." Like he's just realized what he was listening to. He forgot that it was me. So I think the film was good. I like the fact that she made it about that, because it makes people, it's interesting for people. It gives more people a chance to get into the film, rather than, if you're a fan of mine, you like it. If you're not a fan of mine, you're probably going to like it because there's a lot of people that are talking about why they don't like my music. and cool, listen to that. And but also see the other side, see a little bit about what goes into making one of my records, which I thought was cool. They got to see my studio work and my process. And I think people maybe walked away thinking that it's not just a quick little, day and a half excursion and then record comes out. It takes years.
I liked the fact that you were sort of, and I guess you have to do this if you got a camera in your face and this is a documentary, that you have to show up as who you are. But it was really interesting, the conflict that I saw at the very beginning, which was you wanting to show up, warts and all, because this is your life, but also, and she left it in there
I
where
know,
you,
I know. I
okay,
hated that.
was that all right? Was that okay for you? You're like trying
See, I would
to
have
be the
told her,
best Kenny G you could possibly be for the film.
and when I saw that, I go, why are you leaving that in? Come on, that's just it's too revealing about me. But that's what she did, and I told her, I said, could you just take that out? She goes, no,
Uh-huh.
no, I can't take that out. I said, okay. And I said, I can just ask, So I said, she goes, what didn't you like about it? I go, well, it kind of just shows who I am. That's what I'm trying to do.
Right.
Anyway, and it's funny because that you say that, because a lot of people have commented about that particular moment, saying that they really liked seeing that. And I go, oh, wow, something that I would think would be maybe too revealing and maybe a turn off is actually people getting to know me, and that is more of a turn on.
Well, the thing is that if you're a fan of Kenny G or a fan of any artist, getting a chance to see the humanity of you.
Yeah.
We all are human. We all have faults. We all have weird idiosyncrasies and OCDs, and I have my share of them too. And letting people into that, being vulnerable. I remember when I came out, which was like the ultimate vulnerability, and I thought this is going to be the end of my career. And it wasn't. It not only was not the end, it was the beginning, because it just brought me as who I am in a much more authentic way. So authenticity,
Yeah.
showing and revealing who you really are, totally understand why people, that makes the relationship even stronger.
Yeah, totally. I remember that day when you announced, and I thought, wow, I love Dave Cobbs even more than I did before.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, I bet the whole world feels the same way, which I'm glad they do.
It was a really good lesson to learn.
Yeah.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the new album, because I
Thank you.
love it. It's beautiful. It's called The New Standards. And what was the influence behind this new recording? Because I think it's really it's you at your finest, which is just playing these beautiful, heartfelt melodies that sound like standards. But they're not old standards, which everybody has done. These are new standards. So tell us a little bit about why and how you made the project.
Well, thanks, David. That's exactly what I was trying to do. Exactly how you worded it. I love the old standards. We've all listened to them as sax players, Stan Getz, Coltrane, Miles, Sonny Rollins, all these beautiful standards that we all know and love. And they've all been recorded a million times. And sure, I could record them again and do a take on them, but I just didn't want to do that. But I love the vibe of that. So I thought, well, I'd like to actually write my own standards. So I'm gonna think about chords that would be more straight ahead jazz chords, but ballads, not the fast and furious giant steps kind of thing. It's going to be more of the Naima, which is a great John Coltrane song, but just these like heartfelt chords, melodies that go along with it that are sounding old school, but still I can't help but sound like me. So it's going to be me in there. And can I do this? Is this going to sound good? And so I really am proud of it, because it was not easy to come up with these songs and the right chords and then playing them in exactly the right way. It just took a long time. So I'm really proud of it. And so I think that these songs have a new kind of a vibe for me. They're still my melodies. They're still me, but it's not necessarily, as I'm going to say, easy listening, popish melodies. It's more jazz, heartfelt, melancholy. What's the word? Not serene, but I'll think of the word in a minute. But it's just these kind of maybe darker sounding melodies, but
Mhm.
still be really heartfelt. I really love the way it turned out. I'm super proud of it. And then coming up with all the improv sections with these changes that are real jazz changes, but I also didn't want to get busy showing off my chops, which I could do, just that I didn't want that to be what I wanted on the record. Because when I listen to let's say a Stan Getz ballad, and when Stan just sings on those melodies, and then when he plays the improv sections, I love it when he's just weaving through the changes, maybe a little flurry here or there, but not fast and furious like he could do, and it would be impressive as a sax player. But I don't want to listen to that all the time. So I wanted to do that same thing, just enough of the technique that makes me get excited and shows off all the years of practice, but at the same time not overtake the songs. Kind of like how I did my Christmas records. It's like I'm going to play these melodies, and yeah, I'm going to do some improv, but I'm not going to overpower the improv just to show off that I'm a competent saxophone player. So that was kind of the vibe.
Well, if you have Stan Getz as your sort of like the goal, the
Yeah,
ultimate goal, that,
yeah,
and believe me, that's like one of my ultimate goals as well. The thing I loved about Stan Getz is he never, not in one recording, ever played more notes than was required.
absolutely.
Played exactly the right amount of notes and not one note more. And so it's like the economy that he used
Mhm.
with his vocabulary. He was
Yeah,
just a great communicator of notes. He didn't have to say anything. He just said it all with the notes, but never one word too much.
yeah.
And I love the collaboration that you did posthumously with him. How did that come about? This was the first single, Legacy, The Sound of Stan Getz. So you must have been talking with the estate of Stan Getz to clear all that.
Yeah, I did. I talked to the estate. I talked to the son. I talked to the mom, not the mom, his wife, Monica. And I talked to the daughter, Bev. And it was my idea to come up with this, because I don't think anyone's ever done this before. You've taken stuff that you've heard people play before, but I actually took notes from a cappella performance that he did, and he was playing some gig. I don't even know where it was. It might have been in Sweden or something. But in the middle of the performance, he played "Happy Birthday" to somebody, or just played it from the stage. So you got all these notes, and this was all recorded, back in the 50s. So I couldn't go back to the masters and go, okay, hey, really, I really like this tune of Stan Getz's. Let me just have the sax part. That does not exist. Like today, when we record, Dave, there's a sax stem, there's a keyboard stem, there's a drum stem, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to separate the music out, you could just get my sax all by itself, and then you could do things with it. Stan wasn't like that. So I took the Happy Birthday, and with all these new uh, pieces of gear that we have, like Melodyne and things like that, I adjusted the notes and I made them different notes. And I cut the notes off and I extended the notes and I made the notes play a melody that I wrote.
It's
I
like
made him
Frankenstein in the studio.
exactly. And so first of all, I thought, is it going to sound not good? Is it going to work? And so I first I had to write a song that I felt I could hear Stan Getz on, which I did with, and Randy Waldman, I'm sure
Or,
very well. So Randy and I wrote this beautiful tune together. So once I started piecing it together, I felt like it was going to work. And there's a lot of little parts in there where I took a couple of notes of Stan's, and once I changed the key for the notes, the tone changed, and he has this big airy sound. So some of the notes, I'm actually adding air. Like I would actually put my saxophone into, like, my mic right over the sax. I mean, the mic right in the sax. And I started to play along with him, but no notes. It was just
wow.
adding the air, so that when I put the air on top of his tone, it matched his other notes. So it sounds like Stan Getz played that in a one take, one place. But it was pretty cool how it all turned out. I'm super proud of it. And all the money's going to the Stan Getz estate. I'm not making a dime off of, which I would never want to do, but they're all, the family's very happy. And I've got to know the Getz family. So it's pretty great for me. And I found out that Stan Getz, who died in 1991. So I had already been recording, and let's see, my big song Songbird was like 1987. So I had like maybe, let's say, 4 or 5 years of, let's say, some notoriety that I said, did Stan Getz even know who I was? They've said, yes, he actually really appreciated your music and your sound. I said, I want to know that. How come I didn't know that when he was
Wow.
alive? And I would have loved to have met him, but I never met him.
Yeah, I never met him either, but when I saw that on your album and I first listened to it, I was like, this is just
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
But I
Okay.
didn't know exactly how you.
One sec.
Yeah,
Hello? Okay, come on in, Brian. Sorry about that. I
no
didn't want
problem.
the ringing. So go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
It's-
When you
I
saw the
love,
stand
I
gets.
love that side of you too. No, it was just such a beautiful thing to see, and and I'm thank you for telling the story of how you kind of crafted that. But the composition side of your life too, because you write amazing melodies and you write them
Thanks.
for you to play, so it makes you're not singing these melodies. There's no lyrics
Right.
ostensibly in the music that you make and you write for yourself. So the melodies have to be so like there has to be so much meat on the bones. You
Yes.
do it naturally. You're a great composer. It's something that is right alongside with your saxophone playing and your musicality. You just do it so well. But what is the process like? Is it usually on the saxophone you'll come up with a melody, or is it come to you just as a melody in the shower while you're showering or driving? Is there a way that a composition is written typically by you?
Mm. Okay, I'll tell you if you tell me.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead. You first.
Okay. Well, there's no typical way. It's a combo. It can happen when I'm just doing my practice session. So I practice every day. My practice is usually 7 to 10 in the morning, 7 a.m., 10 a.m., 10 a.m. So it's 3 hours. This morning I got a little earlier start because I knew we were going to be talking and I wanted to make sure I had ample time. So during the practice session, what I do is I practice all my licks that I know how to play. I try to come up with new things. I work on, I don't know, slowing it down, speeding up. And then sometimes I'll just play something and it'll be, ooh, that's the start of a good melody. Then I take out my iPhone and I put on the little recording thing and I'll say, start of melody. And I'll just play that. And that could be that could end up being a song. Another way is in the shower, not necessarily in the shower too much, but driving. Like I
Mhm.
might just be listening to the radio and I'll just be humming along with something. Oh, that's a great melody. And I love that there's one of the chords in that song. And I'll try to think of like maybe I can hear the chord. Maybe it's some sort of a C minor chord or something. And I'll go, okay, I get the vibe of what that is. And I'll leave myself a note on my phone. So that's another way. Another way is I get together with a keyboard player and in this instance, it was a guy named Sam Hirsch, very, very, really great young jazz player. Like he's a real traditional jazz player. And I got together with him and we just started playing and then he would play a chord. Oh, I love that chord. Okay, I'm going to play something. Okay, there. Okay, we just started a melody. Now from there, I basically lead him on my path. I play the notes and then I go, play a chord. No, 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 no. Yes. No. Yes. Okay. And I mean, and he has a lot of patience with me, and we made a lot of songs that way. So that's kind of how it works for me to write a song. What about you?
Okay, unlike you, I'm not a big practicer. To hear you say that you practice every day from 7 to 10 makes me crazy, okay? Because you're making me feel bad that I don't do that.
Oh
Actually, I don't
no.
do that at all. I'm not a
Good.
real big practicer. I love playing the saxophone. I really do. But it's interesting. I don't really write music on the saxophone.
Mm,
Melodies come into my head. Oftentimes, you want to talk about a little oversharing right now. I haven't done it for a while, but there was a period of time where I would have cannabis at night, right? Whether it was
mm.
like a little vape pen or an edible, and I would be totally high and I would take my phone out and these melodies would come and I would record myself singing these melodies. Now, 95% of them were shit.
You are being candid. That's very nice.
95%, but the other 5%
Gold.
were actually little golden
Great.
gems.
Right.
And so that's one way. The driving in the car, that totally, or if I hear something
Yeah.
that somebody else has done, it'll inspire me to think about whether it's a groove that I love or a little chord changes, and I'll hear a melody and I'll put it again in the phone. So that's really the way. And sometimes I'm a terrible piano player, but sometimes I will sit down at the piano
Yeah.
and write a song or hear something, and I'll work it out that way. But it brings up a question though. I would like to ask you: is there a favorite song that you have I love the story, by the way, in the documentary. Finally, for all to see the story of how Songbird became such a massive hit.
Yeah.
That's the song that I think most people would associate with you as the number one song. I would imagine that that's not your favorite song of yours that you composed, even though it's probably been the biggest boon for you in terms of your career and your
Yeah.
superstardom. But is there one song of yours that stands above all the others in terms of a composition?
Good question. Honestly, as I'm playing the songs, each one of them is the song. In my show, I play my song Silhouette, and when I play it, I just love playing it. When I play Song, but I love every night, I love playing it. I mean, I feel like I play it differently every night, although I'm sure it sounds very much the same. But I feel like, whether I'm just extending a vibrato or I'm easing into a note when sometimes I might hit it harder. Uh, yeah, I don't really have it like that. But on this new album, there's the first song on the album is called Emmeline, and I just love that. Just the first chord is just something about it. When I hear it, I go, "Wow, I can't believe I wrote that thing." That just that one note, da da da, that note, da da, with the way it goes like that. Man, I just love that part. So that I guess I have favorites at certain times and they last a while. But if as I go back, as I play each song, they become my favorite at that moment. So I know it's kind of like that's an easy answer, but
Darn it!
can't give you I can't give you my favorite. And there are some nights where we don't even play Songbird, not very often. It would be when you're playing part of a festival or something and they need you to play a shorter set. It's hard I don't know how it is for you, but it's very hard for me to play a shorter set than normal.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like as an instrumentalist, when we are out there playing, to get the audience to go on our ride with us, it takes a while. It's not easy. Like we don't have words that say, now you're going to relax and here's another song for you to think about love. And now we're going to get real peppy and we're going to talk about some attitude. So it's not like that. It's all about tempo and dynamics and melodies and just rhythm. And we have to combine all of that to take our audience from the start of a concert to the end of a concert. And if it's interrupted by the fact that I'm sorry, we're going to have to cut your set down by a half an hour tonight because you're following so and so and it's hard to do, and I really have trouble with that. I do it, but those aren't my favorite concerts. My favorite concerts are the ones where I can play it's about a 2 hour and 5 minute show. That's my show. But when I have to do an hour 40, which seems still like a long show,
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't given the audience my best.
Well, that's a lot of blowing, 2 hours and 5 minutes
Yeah.
every
Well,
night. But
I
if you
practiced as well
practice three
practice.
hours, I'm going to say if you practice 3 hours every day, you can do that kind of
Yeah, no
stuff.
problem. Yeah, no problem. The chops never get tired. They
Yeah.
never get tired because I'm always like, if I go on a vacation, my sax is with me and I will stuff whatever I have to stuff into the soprano in the hotel room to practice. I do at least an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours if I can. Even on a vacation, it's harder because I'm I'm in a hotel room, so I don't want to disturb the other guests.
Come
But
on. If they
but
knew that they were staying next to Kenny G, you don't think that they would go, practice all you want,
yeah,
practice till 3 o'clock in the morning. Who cares?
sometimes I'll leave a note under so I might sign it so give me a break. Like when they hear all these notes, because I'm just practicing a bunch of scales and they're thinking, ugh. But if they know it's me, maybe they might cut me a little slack.
I have to tell you something really funny as a total aside, talking about embouchure. There was a time when I got, what do you call it? Botox. Botox.
Oh,
Like to take
yeah.
away wrinkles and stuff like that. So the doctor did Botox, and I was sort of like, let's just check it out. And then like a week later, I don't know if you've ever had it. Don't tell me if you did. A week later, you look in the mirror and you go, "Oh my God, who is that staring back at me? My wrinkles are all gone." So the next time I went to him, he said, "Well, we can do a little filler here, and like that's what they do." And I said, "Let's have it." And then he shot me up, and I was on my way to a rehearsal for our cruise. And I go to take the saxophone out, and I put it in my mouth, and I go to play it, and it goes like this. I he numbed my face. You would think after all these years of playing saxophone, I would know that you use every single muscle in your face to make a sound. That
Oh
was
my
not a
God.
good moment for Dave Koz. Let me just say
Well, that is a very candid of you. I am, I am the opposite of you about that stuff. I leave myself alone. I'm not the Botox guy. If I have wrinkles, they stay there. They're just fine the way they are.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that would be tricky. I would be scared to do that because I think Botox isn't it? It's a relaxer of things, right? It relaxes things,
It
right?
basically deadens your muscles so
Yeah.
that you don't have the wrinkles, but it deadens your muscles. So
No,
anyway, I
we
don't
don't
do
want
that
that.
anymore. No more of that. I
No,
learned my
no,
lesson.
no, 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 no more of
Yeah.
that.
So I don't want to take you too much of your time. You've been so generous. Two last questions. One is I have to ask you about your boys. I remember when they were small kids. Now they're adults. Tell us, can you, if whatever you'd like to share about your family life.
Well, yeah, I've got two really great boys. They're 28 and 24 now. So that's how long it's been because you were around when my first son was born, Max. So Max is I would say that he is a virtuoso guitar player. He is. He really is. Early on, when he was really liking the guitar, I went against the norm of what most parents and teachers tell their musicians, which is they got a teacher over and they want to learn songs and oh, isn't it cute? He can play this song by such and such or whatever. And I said, Max, forget about playing songs. You don't need to play songs. You need to work on your mechanics and you get the mechanics down. You'll be able to play any song you want. You don't need to learn a song. And now is the time for you to do the exercises. But he also had a role model of his dad who's already, doing pretty well out there practicing his mechanics every day for 3 hours. So they woke up in the morning and they heard me wailing away. Then I might take them to school. I'd come back and practice more. And they always saw me practicing. So he was inspired and he did that. Now that guy is ridiculously, I mean, but he's a metal player, Dave. So he's a shredder. So that guy, he can shred. And so what he's doing now is he's trying to he's done already one album, but anybody can do an album. You know what I mean? You do an album, you release it on your own. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're a recording artist. So
Right.
he's not with a label. So he's working on another album and he's trying to, he's just trying to do it. He's doing his songs, he's playing, and his playing's great. And he's going to try to get a record deal and hopefully get out there on the road and be an opening act to start with, like I was, like you were, and then hopefully headline at some point. So I can say this, and I say this to him. I said, your talent will get you there if you have enough patience. It will. And you're lucky your dad is in a position where I can support your lifestyle, which is very modest.
Mhm.
I'm not one of those guys that lets their kids live any kind of a lavish lifestyle. He's a very, very basic allowance. And he lives in New York and his apartment is not fancy. And he doesn't have very much spending money at all, just enough and maybe a little extra if he wants to take his girlfriend out for dinner one night a month, he could afford to do that. But
Wow.
yeah, so that's it. So he's doing that. And I keep saying to him to have patience. It will come, but you just have to keep practicing and keep getting better and keep doing your thing. It'll happen. And Noah, I got to tell you, he got a real major lift just a couple weeks ago. He is graduated from USC in film score, like composition.
Wow.
He wants to be a film score composer, a film composer, like a Hans Zimmer,
Hmm.
or a James Newton Howard. He wants that. So he started to intern at a studio with a very famous film score guy, Ludwig, Swedish last name. Okay, Ludwig, Swedish last name, but Ludwig did Black Panther. He just did the new Pixar. So he's doing the top movies. Um, and so he's interning there. And after 4 months of interning, they just said to him, no, would you like to stay on permanently? So he is now exactly where a film composer should be. He's going to be like an apprentice doing his thing. Right now, he's watching, he's learning, he's helping a little bit, he's getting the coffee, he's running food errands, he's cleaning, and he's going to be there. And hopefully, after a few years of that, he will then be able to go out in the world and say, oh, by the way, I have interned for the last few years with Ludwig, Swedish last name, and everyone's going to go, oh, you're with. It'd be like saying I was one of Hans Zimmer's guys for 4 years.
Right.
Oh, well, then you must have. We'll
Right.
let you do the film. And so Noah's doing that. He's already done a couple of films just
That's
on his
awesome.
own. So they're doing great. Very proud that obviously they looked at their dad's life as a musician and said, we would like to do that too. So that makes me feel great.
Yeah, I love the fact that they're both in the business. By the way, last question: do you think that that Max's desire to do heavy metal was I mean, the both Gorelick's, right? You got
Yeah.
Kenny G on one
Yeah.
side and Max G, and a gulf of music between both of your styles. I think
Yeah.
it's hilarious.
I do too. I mean, I think he probably, I don't know, he was always attracted to it. He was always attracted to metal. And I think it was the fast shredding of those guitar players that just, I mean, they're virtuosos at what they do. It's just that it's so distorted and loud. For me, it's not my favorite. But as I get past all of that, I look at the virtuosity,
Yeah.
and through Max, I've been to many a metal concert, Dave. I mean, I went to several Megadeth concerts, a couple of Opeth concerts. One concert, I think it was with, Opeth, where there was like the mosh pit. So Max wanted to go down. So I'm standing by the mosh pit, and these metal guys, these real tatted out, tough guys could come up to me and go, "Hey man, you Kenny G?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "My mom loves you. Can I get a picture?" And I said, "Look, yes, on one condition." What's that? I said, "Protect me. I don't protect me from anyone like grabbing me and throwing me into the mosh pit."
Or the mush pot.
The mush pot. Yeah, there you go. That's
That's
all.
just to show your age.
Oh,
I'm going to the mush pot.
boy. So they said yes. So I took pictures, and picture this. I'm standing there, and you got 4 or 5 real tough guys standing around me with their arms. They're protecting their precious little Kenny because all their moms love him.
Oh my
It's so
God.
cute. But I got an appreciation for metal music and what it takes, then we would, because of me, it's a backstage pass. So after the concert's over, I get to take my son backstage, meet the metal guys, and they're going, "What are you doing here? Why are you here?" I said, "Well, my son, Max." And then they do their thing. And then I'm a hero to Max.
Oh God, that is hilarious, man. Just the image of that. I don't need to see photographic proof. I got the
No,
image in my head and it makes me laugh. When I'm in a bad mood, I'm going to be thinking about that kitty.
it's pretty cool. And I have a friendship with Dave Mustaine from Megadeth now. We have a friendship, which is pretty cool.
That's
Two long hair, curly haired musicians from totally different backgrounds. And he's a cool guy. I just like that. I actually really like all types of music as long as it's done with that same level that you and I put into our music. I mean, we're not just, it's not just picking it up and playing okay. I mean, we care about how we play, and I like people that care about how they do their craft.
I remember one time being in a store and Paul Stanley of Kiss, the
Yeah,
singer of Kiss,
yeah.
came up. He noticed me and he came up to me and he said, "Dude, I love your music. My wife and I listen to it all the time." And I was like, "What?" And it's just true.
Yeah,
If you stick around long enough and there's quality with what
yeah.
you do, which you have done so beautifully your whole career, you can't help but love it. And you have been such a joy on this interview. I can't thank you enough
Oh man.
for spending the time. I can't believe how long we talked. I was only supposed to keep you for a half hour, but I
Oh, it's okay.
thoroughly enjoyed this. And you're such a delight and a dear friend. And nobody's more proud of you and your success than me. And I've said this publicly, I'll say it again right now. I wouldn't have the career I have if it weren't for you and your career. So thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Kenny G.
Thank you, Dave. It's so nice of you to say, and I appreciate it. But your talent would come through regardless of what I am and who I am.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.